edition of A Walk Down Memory Lane. I'm your host, Earl Bass. Joining me is none other than Coach Hatcher from Sports Inside and Out. We're joined this evening by NBA legend Otis Birdsong. First of all, I want to say welcome, Mr. Birdsong. I know you have been to Bermuda before. You would have had a wonderful time here, now back overseas. But for those that don't know, four-time NBA All-Star, All-NBA second team, All-American, and you've had your number 10 retired by the Houston Cougars. And that's just a little bit of what we're going to get into about Otis Birdsong this evening. But Coach Hatcher, we have this legend from the NBA with us this evening. Give us a take on what you know about Otis, and then we can get right into a lot of back and forth with Otis.
Yeah, let's give a quick elevator so we can let the fans know about Otis Birdsong. First of all, I'd like to give a thank you so much for the nation of Bermuda and the Caribbean for welcoming us to the partnership and collaging with Earl and the Bermuda Sports. It's going to be a great venture coming up to make sure y'all get the tip and the element of great apex of legends of sports. And you got a great situation to be able to be a part of our bringing the life of the legends of sports all through the Caribbean and around the world. Otis is something special, of course. We met Otis when he was still a young whippersnapper, but this guy is something phenomenal. Came out of Florida very quietly and was always on people's radar. Could shoot the lights out. He had a natural stroke. If you think this young man, Steph Curry, he's a natural stroke, and he got the size to back it up as well. But three-time perennial All-American, this guy could do something that was apex as far as the greatness of the Houston Cougars. He was probably one of the greats of the greats there, no question about it, with all of them, Olajuwon, whoever. But he is very, very cognizant of his brand as a great guy, great community activist. He puts himself available to the fans and constituency of basketball and of neighborhoods and cities around the country. Great guy. You can't ask for more. He means so much to me and Wally, and I think he's going to be a great addition to the content of the Legends of Sports, and of course what we're trying to do there in the Caribbean, in the States, and around the world. But right now, I just want to get to it. It's hard to catch him now. He's all over the place as a golfer, but he's also in big demand around the country, particularly in the major chapters of the Retired Players Association that's so dear to us all. But he is a great brand, a great spokesman, and he is a great facilitator of action. Can't do no more. Later on, we'll tell some things that he took some time away to do something to help out President Obama at what me and Wally was doing there at a tragedy in Houston. So, but right now, let's get to it. Otis, thank you so much. We can always depend on you, man. You're a man of your word. You're a debonair. You always carry yourself so well. So for us, you're a big demand and a big person in our lives. Thank you so much for joining us. And what's up with you, young buck? What's up?
Well, first of all, it's an honor to be on the show with you, Coach Hatcher and Earl. I appreciate those kind words. But most of all, I appreciate what you have done, your friendship and the things you've done for former players to keep us in the limelight and keep people aware of what we're doing. So hats off to you. I've been knowing you a lot of years, been wondering what has happened to you, and it's great to catch up with you again. And again, appreciate everything you do for the Legends, man.
Well, God bless you, man. God bless you.
Yeah.
Earl?
Well, let me start, Mr. Birdsong. What guided you to the sport of basketball?
Man, that's a great question. I grew up in Winter Haven, Florida, where the Red Sox used to spring train. And in our area in Florida, football was the first sport, then baseball, then basketball. And so we integrated the schools when I was in the 9th grade. And we were all trying out for the football team. I mean, that was our first love. we played basketball, but really football was the first love. So when we integrated the schools, we had about 200 kids trying out for the football team. You had all of the white kids who were at the school, and then all of the blacks who were integrated and at the school. And so the coach said, in order to get down to the limit, if you're late to practice, if you miss a practice, if you're hurt and can't practice, you're going to get cut. And so I got hurt. I twisted my ankle the first day of practice. I was devastated, crying like a baby, because all of my buddies, everybody was trying out for the team. And once I got hurt in the 9th grade, I never played football again. I just started focusing on basketball, and that's what I did. But I mean, we always played a little recreation leagues and stuff coming up. But again, football was our first love. And so once I got hurt, I said, I'm just going to focus on basketball.
Yeah. When was your talents noticed in the sport? Because some people have it right away. Others have to really work hard at it. When was your talents recognized for you to even get a scholarship or to go to Houston?
Even at an early age, I was blessed with the gift to be able to shoot the basketball. I tease my kids now. I say I came out the womb being able to shoot the ball. So it was a gift. And as I got older, I was just focusing on moving without the basketball, being able to handle the ball in different aspects. But I've always been able to shoot the basketball, but never thought about really a scholarship because in high school, you're just having a great time. And then once, you become a junior and you get that first letter, it's like, wow, this is amazing, And then, of course, my senior year being heavily recruited, I thought about playing college ball then, but I never really thought about, I knew I wanted to go to college because my mom made sure out of 12 kids, 11 of us went to college. The 12th one didn't go because she was physically challenged. So education was always important in our household. So I knew I would go to college either way, but never dreamed that it would be on a basketball scholarship.
Yeah. Coach, when did you first recognize or get any indication of the talents of someone like Otis Birdsong?
I was in Europe. I was playing, and I think it was Holland. And we came during the summer months. You see, in the International League, or European League, in the month of December, you had the month off because it was nationals, as you know, Earl. And we came in, and me and Wally went to see one of the games with Houston. And we saw Otis, and then Wally said, this cat's from Florida. Now, during that particular time, Wally was working for the Heat. He had just started with the Heat, I should say, because he was there for when we had pro athletes in action. This cat was a natural stroker. Then we talked to a guy named was it Dale Davis? And we also talked to Dale Curry. And as you know, that was a guy that was kind of compared to the stroke of Otis. And everybody was saying, including Sam Jones, he said, hey, he's pure. He's a pure stroke, and if anybody knows, Sam knows. His stroke is good because he worked so hard off the ball. And he knew where he wanted to go, and he had great anticipation and what you call IQ. And that's what Wally always did. I thought, and the old timers, you got to have IQ. He had such an IQ for the game, anticipation for the game. And he knew where he wanted to go. And he had a way of mastering his game without even influencing anybody else. Everybody had a good idea of where he wanted to go because he put it in. He was probably at that particular time, I think it's the second year All-American. I think it was the second year. He was a junior. This cat was off the chart. In his senior year, everybody knew he caught a dear friend of ours named Robert Reed, who played at Houston too. He said this cat is going to be something, and we kind of fell into him then. You don't know how much we used to talk about him because my stepson Dominique Wilkins used to talk, and you talk about a stroker. And Dominic used to say, "This cat is good, man. He's a he's quiet and all that, and that's what he got. He's more respected, not just of his talents on the court, but he was so easy to play with. That's what I heard. He was easy to play with, and he made everybody a part of the game and look well. And he wasn't the point guard. He was a 2 and stretch 2-1-2 or whatever you want to call it then. But he was special then, and when we finally got a chance to really get with Otis and enjoy was at the Las Vegas. I think it was the Las Vegas All-Star game. All-Star playing. And then the next year we got into him. And then in New Orleans, after we did the Katrina thing with the games after we did after Katrina, then we started really locking in him, and that was because of a guy named JoJo White. So he's something. He's been around, but and he's so calm and kind of he's under the radar. He don't like a lot of attention, which is odd for a guy that as much as he plays. So you can't find too many people that don't want to be around Otis and during that time to play with him. So he was a real upper echelon superstar at that particular time. So
Mr. Birdsong, let me ask you this question, because it's interesting when someone decides where they're going to take their level to once they leave high school. What stood out for you to attend Houston?
Well, first of all, I wanted to leave Florida. I didn't want to stay at home. Mm-hmm. And then I had seen the game in college basketball. It was the University of Houston in UCLA at the Astrodome. Oh. Almost over 50,000 people watched that game. So I knew about the great Elvin Hayes and Don Chaney and those guys. And to be quite honest, the assistant coach, Harvey Pate, my entire family, including my mom, just fell in love with him. He did such an amazing job of recruiting me. And I just fell in love when I went on a visit there with Guy Lewis and just wanted to go to Houston.
And once there, you settled right into the team, or did you struggle being away from home at the initial signs of it?
I really did. In high school, you have your high school sweetheart. Mm-hmm. And of course, she was a year behind me, and I went off to school and was homesick and talked to my high school coach. Around Christmas time, I actually wanted to transfer back to Florida. All of my brothers were home, and my friends who I played with in high school was talking to me and having a good time during the Christmas break. And we actually was playing in a Christmas tournament, so I couldn't go home. And I was so homesick, man, I wanted to transfer. And he told me, he said, well, give it another month. And if you want to transfer after another month, then I'll be all for it. And so I stuck it out another month, and just homesickness went away. Fell in love again with Houston and stayed there for 4 years.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to take our first commercial break. When we come back, we'll have more with Otis Birdsong. We'll be right back.
Putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Welcome back. Well, Mr. Birdsong, when you would have been getting ready to finish the University of Houston, NBA was in your sights. Looking around, where did you really want to go? Obviously, it's not in your hands because it's draft time. But what would have been your first choice as a professional?
The Celtics or the Lakers.
Okay.
Unfortunately, not unfortunately, because that was actually my favorite team to play for. Kansas City Kings, before the draft, told me that they would be taking me number 2, second pick in the entire draft. So I actually knew where I was going. Back then, they didn't bring you into New York and do a big deal with the lottery picks or the top first rounders. They didn't do that. So I knew I was going to be going to Kansas City. I was just excited about being drafted, man. I mean, never dreamed that I would one day be playing in the NBA or being drafted. So I was really excited. Family was excited. The whole town was excited. And so it was just a great night, a great day when I went to Kansas City and met some of the Kansas City Royals. And it was just exciting times for me, man, to be drafted into the NBA.
Sure. And Coach, when he would have gotten into the NBA second pick in the draw, how exciting was it for guys like you who, had kind of, been there, seen it all, but now we have this new breed coming in and bringing more excitement to the game?
It was great because Otis set a new standard when he came into the league. Of course, the old standard of the board selections and all what Otis is talking about was unfanfare, but it was excellent. But when we heard pretty much where he was going, because we had a young lady that was really, really tied into us. Her name was Lynette Woodard. I think Otis would know who we're talking about. And
Yes.
she kept up with everything in Kansas, as well as a dear friend. And Otis, I think JoJo White knew more about your draft status because talking about the Celtics, JoJo was one of the first ones we ever heard, him and a guy named Emmett Bryant, talk about you. Possibly getting in there, but it was a Progmeyer coming out when you were coming out. But Otis was, oddly enough, had an interesting milestone in his life. And hopefully I'm remembering this well. I got some time we get a little senior moment. But I do believe, and I want the sports fan to really believe this quiet, stroking, shooting son of a gun was the first $1 million contract in the NBA. Ain't that something to behold? Now, Otis Birdsong out of Florida went to University of Houston, had a stellar or trilineal All-American career. And all of a sudden, out of all the cats coming out with him doing those first top, I think it was top 20 was the big thing there. He was paid the first $1 million man in the NBA. So we were so proud of him, man. I mean, and then when he started playing golf, it became a little better. we can get him out there, you know.
But that's an interesting segue, because I later on I was going to ask you, but I'll ask you now. What were some of the things you were doing off the court that would have allowed you to kind of take your mind away from basketball? Because it's like any job you do. You need something that's going to take your mind away from the job when you're not doing the job. So what was some of the things you used to do in spare time that kind of captivated your attention to do something different?
Well, my first few years in the league, I wasn't playing golf actually when I was in the NBA. I used to see when I went to New Jersey, Lawrence Taylor used to be playing golf, and I would be like, man, what are he doing out there? No black guys play golf, man. But Lawrence was playing when he was with the Giants and I was with the Nets, and I'm like, man, please. But back then, you basically just hung out with the guys, man. Cotton Fitzsimmons, one of the things that he did so well in Kansas City when he was our coach is he created a family atmosphere. And so we would always go to dinner at his house or a party at his house. We would go to movies together as a team. So in our spare time, we just really hung out together with the players, especially once Phil Ford came in my second year. He and I were backcourt mates. We would live close to each other, and we hung out together all the time.
One of the things, in Bermuda back in the 70s and 80s, primarily we only had 2 TV channels, and on the weekends it would be NBA or NFL, whatever season it was. It'll be on all day on a Sunday. So when you got into the league, that we kind of had the opportunity to see you firsthand. But a young man joining the NBA, you talked about the legends that you would have seen in Houston. Now here you go into a next phase of life, and here are all these guys that you probably looked up to, admired, try to emulate parts of their game in your game and so forth. But going into that league, your mindset, and especially playing against some of these guys, what was that experience like for you?
Well, it was very exciting. I wore the number 10 because of Walt Frazier. To be able to play against him, I think it was his last year. I only played against him 1 year. To play against the great JoJo White, who I was a Celtic fan growing up. So Emmett Bryant and JoJo and Bill Russell and Sat Sanders and those guys. I just loved the Celtics. And to be able to play against Dave Cowens and Earl Monroe and a lot of the legends was so much fun, but it was also tough, man. I mean, my rookie year, even though I averaged almost 15 points a game, it was tough because in college, we only played like max 30 games.
Right.
And now all of a sudden you got 8 exhibition games and 82 regular season games. It was hard mentally, because every night you got to get yourself ready to play. A lot of fun competing against the best, but man, that rookie year was very challenging, At the end of the season, I was really, really tired.
Mm-hmm. Coach, you want to jump in?
Well, and when Otis was coming, we were doing the old ABA, the European thing. That was a saving salvation of us old timers coming up, unless you came up and was ready to get into the merger. But we only played 64 games. And Otis might laugh at that, but that was it. We were happy, but that was a lot. But twice a week was mostly it, sometimes 3. But the strain of the NBA can be very impactful if you don't have the IQ to be able to deal with it, Earl. And people may say, "What is IQ got?" Believe me, it does. You got to know how and study everything about what you're going to do and who you're playing against and what you might be able to get away with, how you can penetrate and use your abilities. But Otis had one thing about him, which was basically he moved tremendously well without the ball. He was good. He was a Sam in that point. The other thing that makes Otis so dear to us all, including the time we were working with President Obama during his first election, was he endeared everybody around the country. I never told, or Wally ever told Otis how much he was appreciated when we had all those calls from the Pentagon and all those things, that might have been a little overwhelming for him because he was very modest. But when we had that mass shooting after the disaster with Katrina in New Orleans, guys, we had this mass shooting at Fort Hood.
Mhm.
And we were doing some camps and clinics for our national welfare, troop welfare tour, going to the different bases around the country, which we enjoyed. And some of the things that Otis would do as well when we had to do something. He dropped everything on a day's notice. And we had the day after the shoot, was it 1 or 2 days old? I think 2 days after the shooting, we were asked by the general to come in and do a clinic and a family welfare project for the whole base of Fort Hood. All the ambulances in the morning going on. And we took almost, I think, 2,000 kids in 2 sessions. And their mothers and the commanders, everybody was watching and was so impressed about. I was still working on my back injury, Wally and Otis. And I think Charles Jr. was there, but Wally and Otis took the entire base over of Fort Hood. And that led into President Obama coming in the next day after we left. And it was tremendous. And he did such a great job. I mean, it was from his heart, and you can pick it up. The kids picked it up, the mothers, and even the widows who were there. We saw a different side of Otis that endeared him to us for a long time. And we were talking there that every time we get to promote this young man, and God works in strange ways, at this particular point of our life, with all the things I've gone through and the tragedies and losing my vision and all, me and Wally always thought of one guy, that this would be a perfect guy to be a part of the international broadcast we're doing, of bringing the voices of the legends of sports to you. And that's where he is at now. And it's at God's time. We go now, he's at a point, I think now, he's really matured to a point now, or he's elevated himself into a third quarter of life, I put it. We're in the fourth, he's in the third. But he's ready now to really make the impact that he's got, and we're so proud of him, and so proud of him to be the facilitator of the things we may need him to be to make the impact of legends known all over the world. So that's what he means to us, man. And I mean, he's something to be endeared, not blowing it too much. He knows what he's about. And I take now that he's going to be a vital part, him and Johnny and a few of the other guys is going to be involved in our broadcast abroad. He's going to be a real facilitator, not just for change, but for branding and making the situation better than what it could be. Mm-hmm. That's about it.
Sure. So let me ask you, Mr. Birdsong, what did you consider yourself? A 1, a 2? Because I heard Coach say it earlier, a 1 and a 2. So what did you consider yourself best at?
Well, back when I played, you were designated to be a certain position. Mm-hmm. And so I was a 2 guard. And back when I played, the 2 and the 3 generally were the leading scorers on the team, unless you had a Kareem Jabbar or Marvin or somebody. But most NBA teams, the 2 and the 3 led the teams in scoring. I mean, you looked at San Antonio, it was George Gervin, Denver, David Thompson, World B. Free, Paul Westphal, all of the great 2 guards generally led their team in scoring. Mm. So I was designated a 2 guard, and that's the position I played.
A free scorer.
It wasn't free, especially I failed to mention my rookie year. Another reason it was so tough is because the first 2 years in the league, hand checking was legal.
That's right.
A guy could actually put his hand on you and steer you away from the basket. I mean, it made it tough. Jim Price and some of those big, strong guys with those strong hands, they put their hands on you, man. It was tough.
Yeah.
You know, nowadays, guys with average,
But
Michael Jordan with David Thompson, we'd average 50 points a game in this league because you can't touch them. They play zone defense.
And Otis said, now you can't talk back at them.
I mean, come on, man. Yeah, I mean, I love Giannis, but I mean, I've never seen a guy average 25 points a game and 20 of them in the paint.
Mm.
I mean, they don't foul him. They don't hit him hard. He just shoots layups and dunks. It's amazing, man. These guys you can't touch them. I mean, I don't begrudge them, but it's a lot easier. Everybody's scoring now, even though so-called
if I might drop in, listen, the greatest example of today's game was put by one of the greatest players of the game, top 50, one of the greatest of all, was Sam Jones. He said, the ball now is called sissy ball. He said that we earn our living through brute force and charisma and talent.
Right.
Now it's about how you can fly and how you can shoot and don't play a lick of defense. So, you know, it's come to that point, but Otis is so right. You had to bring your lunch every day. In the old ABA, I didn't never get into the league, but in the old ABA, listen, boy, everybody, you could not get hurt and say you're going to get a day off. No, because you didn't get paid.
That's right.
And you were applicable to lose your gig for it. So the real basketball was, up until I think Otis's second or third year in the league, that was the last year in the NBA for NBA basketball as it was supposed to play.
Yeah. Well, one thing I noticed was even when the check-in came in, where you couldn't check, some guys still wanted to play that rough basketball because you weren't gonna get a free shot in the paint. You weren't gonna get an easy layup. They just refused to give that to you, and it took a little while. Now we got what we got, but you had to work hard each and every night if you wanted to get a point, let alone 20 points. And you know you had to have worked to get whatever you got that night. So that's for sure, definitely. Well, we're gonna take another commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have more with Otis Birdsong. We'll be right back.
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends, and that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
That's it. That's, he's leader.
And welcome back. Well, Mr. Birdsong, let me ask you, what was your, you know how people talk about your coming out game, your coming out season, your coming out, what game do you think it was for you that made people sit up and recognize that you deserved to be in the league?
It's too many games. I can't I can't remember one game. I would say probably my second year in the league when I made my first All-Star game. That probably, even though, you know, you average 15 points a game as a rookie, you would think that would be pretty good. But I didn't make the all-rookie team even, and I'm sure it was because we only won 31 games my rookie year. We were 31 and 51.
Right.
And we fired the coach and brought in Cotton Fitzsimmons, drafted Field Ford with our first-round pick, and he won Rookie of the Year, and I made my first All-Star game. So I would have to say after my second year, that's when people probably took notice of my ability to be able to play in the league.
So explain to many people, because we also in Bermuda got to recognize some outstanding coaches as well. So what was Cotton Fitzsimmons like as a coach, you know, to a player like yourself?
Well, he was a father figure, of course, but he was like Mussolini. He had that short man syndrome, so you know how tough he was. He was really tough, and but he made the game fun. Our practices were fun, even though training camp was so hard. It was fun, and of course, once the game started, he made it fun as well. So he created, like I mentioned earlier, a family type atmosphere. We were always welcome at his home. He treated everybody the same, whether you were an all-star or not. And he just created that family atmosphere. And even though I played in New Jersey 7 years and 1 year with Boston, my fondest memories of being in the NBA was in Kansas City, because we just had so much fun, just so much like a family. And it was just a lot of fun playing for Cotton Fitzsimmons. He was brilliant mind as well.
Sure. Now, Coach, we often talk, when we talk to legends, we often talk about the struggles that they would have had, you know, growing up and so forth. But here you have this gentleman that Mr. Birdsong's talking about, Cotton Fitzsimmons. What was he like, and for the NBA as well as black players?
He was good. I definitely say that a good friend of mine, of course, we had him here, Ray Scott. The first African American to be named most valuable head coach in the league. Ray had a lot of things that he could say about those that people don't really know about. And Cotton was really a player's coach. If you wanted to play and listen to it and learn your job descriptions, this is what I remember of him, what I heard. Only met him a few times, but he was someone that you could enjoy playing. You wanted to play and not let him down. I think Otis can probably attest to that, because he put so much into the players. His biggest downfall is that he didn't play the coaching off coaching politics. Cotton was serious about his team, and just like I think Pat Riley was very similar to that, and a few other guys, of course, and Ray. But you could communicate with him, and off season, you could count on Cotton to be available in any support you want, which is kind of unusual for head coaches in the day, because they had a whole lot of things they had to be done in the realms of the team. I knew him one time going into coaching. He came over to Europe 1 year after the season was over, and we got a chance to have the European coaches as well, and learn a lot about him. Particularly, I think it was in Puerto Rico we were. So he was a good man, no question, excellent coach. And he's one of the very few that you can count on to be the same on the court as he is off the court.
Right.
I think Otis would contest better on that, but he was one of the better ones, no question about that.
Right. Sure.
He made every player feel special. I don't know how he did that, but man, we would run through a brick wall for cotton. And to show you what a family man he was, we were very close to his wife as well. And I saw her a couple of years ago at the Hall of Fame golf tournament. Jerry Colangelo had a Hall of Fame golf tournament. And we reconnected. We had been staying in touch, of course, when he passed and stuff. And she's a beautiful, beautiful woman, just a lovely woman, nice. And last year, she called me during she texted me during the Phoenix Suns Dallas Mavericks semifinal series. And she wanted me to come up to Phoenix to a game and sit with her. Of course, she sits on the floor. And I said, no, I'm going to wait till the Western Conference Finals. Then I'll come to a game with you. And of course, the sorry Suns let the Mavericks beat them. So I wasn't able to go, but we're still in touch with each other. Cotton Fitzsimmons' wife, Joanne. And, it's just like I said, family.
Now, you had the opportunity, I believe it was 84, where you guys went deep into the play. Well, you went furthest into the playoff, but putting on a show against two guys that, a Philadelphia team with two guys in Moses Malone and Dr. J, what one would consider legends of the game, even when they were playing. Take us through that series, because that was one of the shining moments, for you and your teammates at that time.
Well, we had Coach Stan Auerbach, who was a legendary coach in his own right. We always matched up well with Philadelphia. Michael Ray, who's 6'5", big guard, one of the greats of the game, just gave Maurice Cheeks fits because he was too small.
Right.
Andrew, Tony, and I, we had great battles and kind of offset each other. Darryl Dawkins played Moses well. Michael Corn played Dr. J well. And, of course, we had Buck Williams, who was a great, great player. They had no answers for Buck. So we matched up well with them. And it was the best of 5 series back then, the first round.
Right. Yeah.
No one gave us a chance. The Sixers were the defending champions, of course, like you said, Moses and Doc. And we go to Philadelphia and win the first 2 games. And we're feeling good about ourselves. And we go home leading in the 3rd game, and our mascot comes out with a broom, like we're going to sweep him. Dr. J sees that broom and goes ballistic. He just took over the game. And they end up beating us 2 games in New Jersey.
Right.
Now the series is tied. 5th game at Philly. Dr. J comes out in the paper, uncharacteristic. Doc never says anything.
Right.
He says on the front page of the Philadelphia sports page, the Nets shouldn't even make the trip back here to play a 5th game. There's no one in the league can beat us a 5th game at home. Of course, Michael Ray and I went up there and handled our business, and we beat them the 5th game at Philly. And the thing I remember the most, besides the fans being so quiet and shocked at the end of the game, Dr. J's wife at the time, her name was Turquoise, the most beautiful eyes you've ever seen in a woman. The stands had emptied out. She was sitting in the arena behind the Sixers bench by herself. And I remember seeing her just devastated, the shock on her face, because no one gave us a chance.
Right.
I mean, to this day, they say that's one of the top 10 greatest upsets in NBA playoff history. And so it was just a great win for our organization.
Yeah. And Coach, when we see what these guys are able to do, especially around the playoffs time, because it's a proven fact. Not always does the best team throughout the league end up winning it every year. It's always a surprise team that gets up because something or someone spurs them on. I mean, you just heard us talk about the mascot bringing out the broom. These guys probably wanted to take the broom and beat the mascot with it.
Exactly.
But when you look at things like that, being around professionals, that turns a different dial for them, doesn't it?
It doesn't take much. They look for that edge. And sometimes, as the old saying, it says, let a sleeping dog lay.
Yes.
And the last thing you want to do is get a major impact franchise ball player into a situation and say, hey, let's get it done, and then everybody started bringing in lunches. But yes, you look for those little small edges. As you can see now, what they call edges is more entertainment, because it's a one-man team, looks a one-man game of entertainment now. But in the day when the game was a game, you look for the edge. You look for anybody that can give you something to jump on. I used to get at the game and at the foul line and talk crap. Doggone well, nobody want to hear somebody talk about their mama at the foul line. And that was one of the edges that you would try to use. Yeah, how's she doing? Anything to take us off that momentum of shooting. And sometimes it worked, but sometimes you got punished for it. So it was interesting. And those are the things you look for. And if you're a good coach, then you know how to take something like that to your advantage and take it into your key ball players that can make it happen right on down the line. So the tandem of Michael, which was probably one of the best two tandems in the NBA at that particular time. Otis may be a little modest about that, but that was a true double combination that had to be respected in the league at that particular time with these two young men. Yeah.
And Mr. Birdsong, who would you say matched up? I know you talked about Andrew Toney, but who would you say matched up with you, especially playing defense against you, and then you playing defense against them? Who would you say was that biggest challenge for you, matching up well with you?
Dennis Johnson was always a tough defensive guard. Dudley Bradley, he's not a big name, but he was a very, very good defensive player. Ricky Sobers did a good job on me. He was tough to score on. I always had some great battles with him, but I would have to say DJ. And then being a two guard back then, having to guard George Gervin, David Thompson, Paul Westphal, World B. Free, the likes of those guys. It was tough, but the toughest guy for me to guard, it wasn't Michael Jordan, and I did have to guard Michael. It wasn't David Thompson. It wasn't George Gervin. It was Pistol Pete Maravich.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. He doesn't get the due that he's deserved. He averaged 44 points a game for his college career without a three-point line. He averaged 25 points a game in the NBA. And his range, they see Steph shooting from the logo, and one step over half court was Pete Maravich's range. I mean, really, his range was unlimited. He's the best passer I ever saw. He's the best ball handler I ever saw. He was 6'6". The game was boring to him. He only played because his dad forced him to play. He really didn't want to play. And the last point I make about Pete Maravich is he was leading the league in scoring. Walt Frazier, arguably the greatest defensive guard of all time, at least one of them. They build it up as defense against offense. Pete Maravich was playing against Walt Frazier in New York, Madison Square Garden on national TV, and Pete Maravich gave him 60 in his own house. So Michael and those guys were tough, but for me, man, I just hated when I had to guard Pete Maravich. Yeah, I really did. That guy could play.
Yeah. Well, let's take our final commercial break. When we come back, we'll wrap up this edition of Sports Inside and Out and a walk down memory lane. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
And welcome back. Well, Mr. Birdsong, you mentioned someone that I think, everybody, not just in Bermuda, but around the world. When Michael Jordan came into the league, there was a buzz around. What was that for a player that was playing against him? What was those times like, and to see how the sport actually elevated with what he was bringing to the game?
Well, actually, it was Michael, Larry Bird, and Magic Johnson. Around the same time. And Michael came in around the time when cable was just taking off.
Yes.
Because our games, the NBA Finals, used to be tape delayed. They would show them after the news at 11:30 at night on Eastern Time on CBS.
Right. CBS.
So
right.
Michael came in around the time that ESPN and the other cable companies were taking off. Nike did a huge promotion around Nike and the shoes and Michael Jordan. And then they were successful and he was successful. And so it helped elevate the league to just unbelievable heights. And so Michael, when I played against him the first year, he hadn't developed a great jump shot. So we were really concerned with him putting the ball on the floor, getting value, as well as posting up. And so once he developed that jump shot, and started hitting threes and stuff, it was almost impossible to guard. But I remember he told me, he said, Otis, man, why you always hold me, man? You always hold it. I said, Michael, because if I didn't hold you, you'd get 40. And he never got 40 on me. In fact, so much so, the compliment that he gave me, and I think it was his second book, he listed some of the toughest players that he had to play against, and he listed me as one of the toughest players he had to go against. But I would hold him and beat him. And Stan Albeck, at the time, who was coaching us in New Jersey, he was such a smart coach. He made Michael have to play defense as well. He was a great defensive player. But we would go back at him. He would say, whoever Michael is guarding, he has to get 20 shots tonight. So we made Michael play on the defensive end as well, but he never had one of those monster 40 or 50-point nights against me.
Sure.
I'm thankful for that.
You made him work for his points.
Absolutely. Beat him up.
Sure. So, well, you named those two others that everybody, there's a household names in Magic and Larry Bird. Being around those type of guys, what was that like, having to at least be on the same court as these guys? You probably didn't have to guard them as regularly as one would have thought, but just being on the court and these guys are controlling the game. They were masters at the tempo that they wanted to have their teams going. They changed gears all the time.
Yeah, Magic was one of the most fun guys you could ever play against, such a competitor, so much fun, down to earth, funny, and I always enjoy playing against Michael. Larry and I had the same agent. And in fact, we hooked up in college. My senior year, he was a sophomore, and we played them in the NIT. Back then, the NIT, I mean, my senior year, they only took 26 teams to the NCAA tournament.
Right.
We were 26-9. We won 26 games and didn't get a bid. Now you were number one seed if you win 26 games. But we played Larry in NIT. Larry was averaging like 30-something a game, and I was averaging 30-something a game. And the Houston Chronicle built it up, Bird versus Bird. And so we had a 1-point lead. This is a true story now. We had a 1-point lead in Houston, Hawkeyes Pavilion. And all of a sudden, Guy Lewis is like, Otis, you know they're going to Larry, this last play of the game. I want you to guard him. I hadn't guarded him the whole game.
Oh,
He's
boy.
6'8". I'm 6'4". So, of course, they throw it into Larry. He backs me down with that patent back down, shoots his little fadeaway, and I nick him on the elbow. No foul is called. We win by 1 and go to the NIT. We lost to St. Bonaventure in NIT finals. That was in 1977. I finished with Boston in 1989. Larry Bird comes up to me. This is no lie. We had the same agent. He had never mentioned it before. 1989, when I joined the Celtics, he said, welcome to the Celtics. Happy to have you. He said, but you know you fired me, you MF. 12 years later, that is still on his mind. You know you fired me, MF.
If the
That's what he
referee
told me.
doesn't call it, it's not a foul.
That's a true story, man. That is a true story. Unbelievable.
Well, Coach,
he was a legendary player, man. Made everybody better. He was just one of the greatest players of all time, no doubt.
Sure. Well, Coach, let me let you end this night because, you know, the relationship and the bond that you have with Otis, I know that's been something that's grown over the years. So I'll let you end tonight with the words of wisdom of someone like Otis Birdsong.
Conclave for a young man. Otis, you will always continue to be one of the greatest unsung superstars of the NBA. You're humble, you're a lot of fun, and he's sincere. And it's hard to find a young, I call it, you know, he's mature now. I can't say young buck, but he is truly a straight up guy. His yay is his yay, his no is his no. And he gives nothing but total respect for those that deserve respect. So he's not a polluted figure. Between him and what my stepson Dominic used to tell, he's very, very much a Otis Birdsong enthusiast, even when they were playing with the Hawks. He is something to be admired, and he will continue to be so. He's a credit to not only the game, but he's a credit to a young man that shows everyone how making a living at a child's game can be more than just a career. It's an extension of yourself, and he is something to be admired. I can only say that God put a good man on earth to do something very special, to be a part of the continual nature of helping and being a part of something positive in the realm of sports for our young. He's a good example of that. We'll continue to work with him. I'll continue to be my Stevie Wonder with him and keep it up. But it's going to be a great thing in the future for you, Otis. I really believe it, and my wife and I will pray on it continually that this new venture will make you a part of something new for the Black legends of sports as well. God bless you, my friend, and thank you for answering the call again, man. Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me, Coach. Always a pleasure to speak with you and your lovely wife and Earl. I appreciate you taking the time to have me on today as well.
Not a problem. I want to thank you. All the best. Enjoy your night. Thank you very much.